How fun was Christmas as a kid? I mean, that's even an expression, right? Happier than a kid on Christmas or whatever. But man, once you become an adult, those responsibilities just start piling up. You got to start worrying about time off and how much time you're going to work, and when the kids are in school and when they're out of school, and how we're traveling here and what hotel we're staying at, and do we need a flight? And it gets expensive. And then you've got all the extra added stress of, oh, I got to hang this light and I got to put up this tree, and then we got to wrap the presents. But most importantly, the financial stress of, we got to buy all of these presents. Don't put Christmas on a credit card. Hurry to savewithconrad.com. We want to make sure that you hit 2022 the way you planned on, ahead of the game. Don't go overspend and kick the can down the road and make it one of your New Year's resolutions next year where you say, well, I guess this year I'm going to try to get out of debt and save money. Do it right now. All the experts are predicting that interest rates are going to rise next year. Don't take my word for it. Throw it in your Google machine. But here's what's happened in the last 2 years. All of a sudden, your house is probably worth more than ever. Why not use some of your newfound equity to get the best interest rate you've ever had while we've still got them? Get rid of your PMI. That in and of itself might save you $200 or $300. And at the same time, get rid of all your credit card debt, just like that. If you can hear my voice and you're in a 30-year loan, if you've got a second mortgage, if you've got credit card debt, if you've got a car loan, you owe it to yourself to just get a quick quote right now at savewithconrad.com. Oh, and how's this for starters? Your single biggest bill, your house payment, you won't have to make that in December or January. You're done until February 1st. You get a 2-month break from your single biggest bill right here during the holidays. That's going to get you the cash you need to not put Christmas on a credit card. And that credit card debt, it'll be gone forever thanks to savewithconrad.com. Go read some of our 5-star reviews all for yourself. Type this into your browser right now, CONRAD reviews.com. ConradReviews.com. See what our actual customers are saying about the process and their experience. It's almost 5 stars across the board. And then hurry to savewithconrad.com. Get yourself a quick quote. Find out how much money you can save for free. We're routinely helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. Heck, the other day we helped a guy save more than $1,100 a month. I want to be clear. He didn't save $1,100 one time. He's saving it this month, next month, the month after that, all because he went to savewithconrad.com. And you can do it too. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And if we can't save you some money, we won't waste your time. But right here during the holidays, what are you waiting for? Make this the best Christmas ever. Let's be like kids on Christmas and not have the financial stress of worrying about what are we going to do? You're going to get out of debt faster and with cheaper monthly payments than you ever thought possible because you went to savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. That's savewithconrad.com.
Flapnut.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we can't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, good old Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, howdy, folks. Hello, Conrad. I'm just going to sit back, relax. It's Turkey week. It's Thanksgiving week. So many things to be grateful for. That's no kidding there. I'm excited. My world is, man, the online engagement is so much fun. I've gotten several texts from folks that are actively on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays and Tuesdays. Don't need to throw names out, but just fun feedback. I've got a chance to people that were a part of Genesis, got to reminisce on some people that were a part of the 96. And you have no idea how many overwhelming votes, Conrad. It's not even vote. It's like, yes, Conrad is just trying to get on his soapbox. He knows you're a four horseman at his heart. He's just chastising you, but there's no doubt in his mind that you're a four horseman. So Conrad, a lot of fun. It's Turkey week, my man. I always love this. Get to cook on the big green egg.
Oh, well, listen, I do want to talk about the big green egg and turkey, but before we do, I think we need to talk about last week. My phone blew up. I got a bunch of feedback from people who knew you in real life, and I guess still do. But here's a text message. And as you said, we won't reveal names. The Genesis Double J show was awesome, by the way, really good. I almost lost my shit listening to it. Completely forgot about that promo. You touched a lot of people last week when you were just open and honest, and we played your old promo from the end of Bound for Glory. It didn't air on Bound for Glory, but it was a post-match interview that was sort of down and dirty with you and Jeremy Borash. And we played it last week on the show, and just you hearing it back got 2021 Jeff in his feels. And apparently that was the experience for a lot of our listeners as well. I'm sure you heard that feedback.
I did, Conrad. And, it's one of those unexpected things that have come out of the podcast, but, I'll tell you how my brain, works. And I'll give you a little analogy because I've thought about this and I've tried to just say, Jeff, God, just let it breathe. This is Jeff talking to Jeff that, if you've got this white piece of paper and it's pretty white and clean and it is, and if you put a dot on it and if you give it to somebody, you say, hey, will you describe that paper? 99.9% of the people will go into great detail and talk about that black dot. They won't talk about, oh, this is pretty and it's rectangle and it's cut from a perfect tree and all the great things about the white part of it. But that one little black dot you focus on. That's me. What did I focus on this week? I focused on, as you said, I got, that brought back a flood of memories. I can remember the sort of, I remember where I was sitting. I could probably take you to exactly where I was sitting, but I just remember the locker room and the setting and all that. And as we started into that and listening to Jeremy's voice, knowing, and we went into it about the summer, no worries, blah, blah, blah. But what do? I put it on mute because I was clearing my throat and frogging my throat and all that last week. And then, I started talking as you asked me and I had it on mute and you said, hey, Jeff, you're on mute. And to me, I ruined that part.
No, you didn't.
But anyway, yes, I did get several texts from that. Another buddy of mine called it a sleeper episode. So anyway, it was unexpected, just didn't expect that out of the entire episode, but it was fun to relive that event as well.
It's such an interesting process going through these episodes with you because, what's the old cliche? Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, sort of deal. Well, you never really know what you're going to be talking about on one of these episodes because the Genesis episode, most people would just assume, well, it's about one pay-per-view in particular. It's about Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, and it is. But what we're really doing is carrying you through your real life experience of working in the wrestling business, which is why we named the show My World with Jeff Jarrett. And we're going to welcome people into My World when we talk about your experience working with Deborah. But before we do, I'm interested to know about how you're going to be working with the Big Green Egg. Of course, Eric and myself, we used to both be Big Green Eggers. I guess we still have them, but we're more rec tech people these days. But you're still rocking that Big Green Egg. And if I had to guess, you're going to be smoking a turkey this week. Did I nail it? Is that the plan?
Oh, without question. And before we get into the green egg, because I could make a whole podcast out of that. I love it. But it is, as you were sort of talking earlier, and then I just responded, but a thought came to my mind about when you said My World. Not many people can even research. So I'm going to give huge props, huge applause to Derek in the research that he put the link in the notes, gave you the opportunity to, I don't even know if you listened to it beforehand, but anyway, that's kind of the magic of the Conrad and Ad Free team. The research on last week's, you can't really, that isn't in the sheets and online and the Google searches of the world. Maybe it is if you go really granular, but anyway, so we had our dust up based on some, what I thought like a research. So today I'm going to give research props. Okay. Now on to the Big Green Egg. You want to respond to that, Conrad, on the research or no? Just move on.
Just want to know what you think about fucking turkeys, Jeff, just talking about turkeys.
So I love it. I get up. Look, you and me go long answer, short answer. No, I'm kidding.
No, what's the process? Do you brine the night before? Do you inject?
Yes, go through all of that. I get it and unthaw it. I'll start unthawing it tomorrow. Monday. Yeah, Monday, maybe probably Monday night, Tuesday. Anyway, go through the process. Have you? Yeah, you know the Big Green Egg, that you get the pot and you get the turkey stand and you roast it. It's a vertical roaster, I think is what they actually call it. So anyway, you get the brine, get all of that, get the temperature set, wake up early, start the grill, get it on there, do it it's about a 6-hour process if I do it nice and slow and with a real big turkey, and I love it. And it is, to me, it's the best tasting turkey. Back in my drinking days, I used to put, baste it and use, instead of water, little Rocky Mountain spring water, if you will. But I don't do that anymore, but I still.
Well, so you don't even cook with alcohol anymore at all?
No, sir.
Wow. How about that? I still use, woodchuck on mine.
Okay.
So, I still use some alcohol, but it's apple flavored. And I don't think anybody in my family knows that I use alcohol, and nobody's complained.
Candidly, it burns off. That's my OCD brain. But anyway, just no need for me to have it in the house anymore. I'll say that diplomatically. But I will say that don't you think that's sort of the trick of on the Big Green Egg? You have to keep plenty of fluid on that pot below it on the vertical roaster to keep the moisture. I think that's the trick. I've been asked, and I've thought it through a lot of times. Like, why is this turkey so juicy? I mean, it is the juiciest, tenderest, and if you cook it right in the right temperature and don't undercook it, don't overcook it, it's the best tasting turkey I've ever had in my mouth. And I'm not biased because I'd like to give props to other folks, but the Big Green Egg makes the absolute best turkey. Don't shake your head at me.
Well, because you say that. I'm just saying, I can make a better turkey than you. And I had the same conversation yesterday with Eric Bischoff, and I'm tired of you guys thinking you're damn know-it-alls about turkey. Next year, Eric and I've already agreed. We're doing Thanksgiving together next year, and we're having a turkey off. And I know you're going to be doing.
I will beat both of y'all's asses.
There's no chance.
Conrad Thompson.
No chance.
No way. You're in Alabama.
Ask Dave Silva. Dave Silva doesn't even eat turkey.
And I'm going to be diplomatic here. Just take a look at Mr. Silva and tell me he took a dump in your guest house.
No. And
you think he's a turkey expert? He doesn't know what an elephant door is.
It's true.
I mean, he's until he went to a meat and three in Huntsville, Alabama, he had no idea what Southern cooking is. And you're going to tell me he's the turkey expert? That alone, I guarantee you, Eric would concur on me that comment alone tells me you have zero confidence in your own turkey cooking. Zero. I'm going to talk to Larry as well.
You go ahead. I have made the turkeys in our family for 15 years.
That's y'all's fault. That is absolutely y'all's fault. There's no doubt in my mind. And between me and Eric, I'll throw the gauntlet down right now. A guy he's originally from Detroit, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Do you really think he knows how to cook a turkey? I mean, he's played cowboy out in Wyoming for a while. I love that. I knew they'd get a rise out of you. I'm just having fun with Eric, but I guarantee you I can cook a better turkey than Eric and you.
I can't wait. And here's what
we'll have a blind taste test with the wives. Deal?
No, not the wives. Yeah. We're not going to do the wives because, because I have the least salesman-y wife of the three of you. I mean, Karen is a natural performer and Lori Bischoff is a damn life coach. My wife's just going to be like, I don't care. Can we eat dessert now? But I say we get a real third party, one who will not be biased. And that's Larry Thompson.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll have Jerry come along.
Whoa, hang on now. Larry Thompson likes you more than he likes me.
That's not true.
So I'm just saying, he wouldn't know what's what, by the way, because, now I don't know. Do you go real bland? I mean, what's your flavor? I just assume it's like you're wrestling. It's vanilla and flavorless, right?
You know what? This chastising. Yeah,
I go Cajun Creole.
Huh?
I go Cajun Creole. I go spicy. I'm gonna beat your ass. That's why Silva loves mine.
Oh, you go spicy turkey.
I go spicy turkey. I inject it. I rub it. The whole deal.
Yours be ready this week. They're on Turkey Day.
Yeah, we eat at 1:00. So mine will come off the grill at 12:30.
Dadgum. You know, and I'm going to Cleveland on Friday for AIW and WrestleCade this weekend. I would say I'd run down to Huntsville and eat some of your garbage turkey.
You know what though? I'll make another one around Christmas.
Okay.
And we'll hook up then for sure.
Let's do that. I seriously think there is a YouTube or Instagram live of me, you, and Eric having a cook-off.
Well, I mean, it's happening next Thanksgiving here, and you're welcome. And you can even do, if you want to, that's what we should do. We'll do the regular Thanksgiving deal, but of course, Saturday here in Alabama is Iron Bowl day. It's Alabama-Auburn. And I think y'all play Vanderbilt beats y'all every year, something like that. So what we could do would be on that day, we do a new round of turkeys, or we could just do turkey breasts, whatever you prefer. But I've got Traegers and Big Green Eggs and Rectex and the whole deal here, and Vision grills. I got 7 grills at my house. My point is, you could make one here, so you wouldn't have to worry about, well, mine don't travel. I can hear your excuses in the distance.
This is getting irritating. Can we go to the lake and look out all across the beautiful Tennessee River?
Oh, next year. Yes, you're right. We'll do it at the lake, and I'll have 3 grills set up. I'll have you a Big Green Egg special for you.
Now we're talking.
And Eric will have his Traeger. And for that matter, I'll make mine on a fucking hibachi. I'll just beat both if he's so bad. Probably not a hibachi. Boys and girls, we've had a lot of fun BSing here today, but we are talking about something that I'm pretty excited about, because right before we clicked record, you said, Connie, I'm paraphrasing. Connie, I didn't know what to expect with this topic, because I just thought, well, you know, we got to do a show this week. It's Thanksgiving. We'll come up with something. And the topic is working with Deborah. But you took something away from the notes that we're going to get into today. Let's just jump into it now. Deborah Marshall, born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Roll Tide, in 1960, grows up running track. She's a cheerleader. She's even the homecoming queen. Of course, she goes to college right there at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and then became a flight attendant. Somewhere along the way, her mother met Steve McMichael, who was then playing for the Chicago Bears. And of course, that happened on an airplane. She sets him up on a blind date. They get married in 85. And then in 87 and 92, she won Miss Illinois and Miss Texas. She really did have a pedigree in these, beauty queen circuits. How about that?
And so we'll dive right into it. All of that backstory. Now, look, I knew she was from Alabama, but I mean, accent wise, you can tell she's Southern, but I had no idea of the mom setting it up. I knew she's a flight attendant, but I know from a non-sports fan, and I'm a college football fan as well, but a professional football fan. You ever heard of the 85 Bears?
Yeah, they did okay.
That's when they got married. I thought, that's interesting. I didn't know that about her history, or her and Steve's history. That was, and again, maybe that's my sports mind junkiness, that I'm like, oh wow, that's interesting. Didn't know anything about that. But I did know that the beauty queen was legit. I think Kevin Sullivan, the devil, not our bud, Kevin Sullivan. Shout out Sully on his bike listing, riding, don't wreck.
Hey, he better be riding that bike, because Cody's going to whoop his ass. I saw something about that on social media the other day. So I hope that Sully's going uphill to get ready, because Cody's got big plans for him.
That's right. Anyway, yeah, Kevin's the one who, because I literally we've sort of touched on it on the Four Horsemen episodes. Walked in the door at WCW, had no idea, and Kevin Sullivan lays down the program with me and Flair and the Four Horsemen, and he glanced. He didn't even go into any much detail, like, "Hey, we're doing this," I had watched. Let me back up. I think I'm getting all over the place. I had watched Nitro obviously before I'd come on the launch and everything, and I used to think, man, there is Willie Galt's teammate. There's Walter Payton's teammate. There's Singletary. I could go through a bunch of the Bears, and he's got a little dog in his hand. That's my very first impression of Mongo McMichael in the wrestling industry. A, he's not wrestling.
Yeah.
B, he's at commentary. And C, he's got the littlest, wiriest, rattiest looking dog. I didn't get it. But that was like the first sort of my introduction into the McMichaels. That when I arrived, hey, his wife's here, and look, and I saw in the research, I didn't realize she appeared on camera so many times prior to coming out with Steve and the Four Horsemen.
Today's episode is brought to you by Geico. Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. And I bet it can be hard work, but you know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing too, because you already have so much to do around the house. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. And we thank them for sponsoring today's podcast. Yes, she's a plant in the crowd for, you would also see her be one of the many valets that Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage used a few times. And then eventually she's put into a storyline where Rick is constantly hitting on her while she's at ringside. And, it's all a ruse because they're trying to, work a little program with Kevin Green. And we would see eventually Mongo becomes a horseman, unlike you. And then Deborah, Woman, and Elizabeth are now going to be like the horseman valets as the story evolves into the NWO debut. When did you first catch a glimpse of and put two and two together? Okay, that's Mongo's wife. I'm sure it's from watching Nitro, right?
No, when I arrived, that's where I'm like,
you didn't know until you're there.
No, that's when I looked at the research and I was just, I didn't completely get into it. Look, I knew Alabama, and I remember her later talking about she was a flight attendant, but her and Mongo Marion during the 85, that season and how they met, had no clue on that, had completely missed. And you know how I am. I rarely miss a live wrestling show unless something's going on. And nowadays I can DVR it, but back in those days I couldn't. But I didn't know she appeared on camera and the Kevin Green and all this. My first introduction was when I arrived at Nitro in October of 96. That's the first time I saw her, not just on camera, but just that's the first time I ever knew that, okay, she's part of the business. Had no idea.
So what do you remember about that first meeting? I assume it's with Mongo. You're backstage at a Nitro or what have you. Just carry me through the day.
Yeah, just that. Okay, his wife, and she's a valet, and that was really about it. Remember, these are the first. For the first, and you'll know better than me after doing the episode. I'd say the first 60, 90 days, it was all about me and Rick, and or at least that's where my mind was. That's the story, and I had I just thought me, Arn, Deborah, Mongo, the group, Benoit, all of that was going to be working together. But I had no idea that Sullivan had this storyline. He never told me in detail about it at all. Just, hey, we're going into this, and that's about it. So walking through the first day, I couldn't tell you the first Nitro that she walked out with me.
Did you, what was your first impression of her? I mean, just a nice guy's, wife or what have you, or did you get to see any of her work? What did you think of the presentation of the beauty queen character, if you will? Just carry me through your first impression.
So growing up in Tennessee, Sherry Martell was one of the ones that, very rarely. And look, I knew Miss Elizabeth, as Randy's girlfriend and wife, not as who we later saw as the manager of the Mega Powers. The contrast, and the girl that worked at the gym in Lexington, Kentucky, who traveled with Randy, and now, I think in a lot of ways, Miss Elizabeth, I think she attracted in a lot of ways, and I know Vince is so good at really accentuating the absolute, even if there's not I don't say a lot there, but just one thread. I mean, Liz didn't talk. Liz didn't work. I mean, Liz was just at ringside and George Animal Steel and all that whole storyline. So in a lot of ways, Liz was a trendsetter. And I immediately, when I met Deborah, okay, she's a legit beauty queen. So I hear. And
how was Liz a trendsetter? Because she didn't do anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to say that diplomatically, but what was her skill set to in-ring product?
None.
Okay. But think about to me as a fan, I just thought the entire, all of it, the wedding, her being in Randy's corner and George Animal Steel storyline, and her managing Hulk and Randy, and the presentation that WWF did, it was so different than any territory wrestling that I had ever seen. I had seen Sherry Martel, or you name it, Baby Doll, just the different skill sets of cat fights, if you will. You didn't see Elizabeth in cat fights, and I didn't think we were going to see Deborah in cat fights. It was just, my first impression was, okay, here's a beauty queen. Okay, that's her skill set. And that's no disrespect. It's just, okay, she doesn't wrestle, and you can tell she's not a loud, boisterous, charismatic, where she's going to draw heat. And, by not being able to, quote unquote, sell, does she have that Elizabeth charisma to, Elizabeth was a real baby face, in my opinion, and never threw a punch. You know what I'm saying?
A real baby face by standing there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because you started and stopped a few sentences about Elizabeth, and I was like, he's trying to find a way to communicate something. And then I was like, okay, I don't think he wants to say it. She didn't do anything, and it got you to.
That's it. I think there's a running thread through, when you look at.
Well, that's not what Deborah was trying to do. I mean, Deborah was trying to be a heel. She was playing up that shrill voice, and she had those mannerisms and that face. She was not trying to be Miss Elizabeth. She's carrying around that dog and wearing those gloves. Buddy, those gloves are heat.
For sure. She was trying to be a heel persona beauty queen.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Have I not answered the question?
Well, no, I just didn't know how we started talking about Elizabeth, and I thought you were going to bring it.
I got you. Bring it back around. Yeah. No, I was doing when I first saw her in WCW, it was like, okay, Liz is here, Deborah's here, Woman's here. I may be missing some others, but none of them, and maybe I don't want to say my generation, but none of them, they were all valets. And I don't want to say the loudest talkers. And, Sherry Martel could talk. She could work, and she could bump. And those three ladies couldn't really do that.
Would they have had a spot? Would Jerry Jarrett have found a spot for them, or would they have needed to learn how to bump or cut a promo or what have you? Because to your point, that didn't really exist in territory wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, if you couldn't at least cat fight, at the bare minimum, physicality is what I'll say. I mean, physicality, because at the end of the day, and as we got into, and we'll get into later in this episode, watching two guys fight in a bar about 80%, 75%. I'm not good at guessing. Maybe sometimes as low as, if it's late enough, 50% of the bar will watch. If two women go at it, the entire place, it's just because you don't see it as often. And there's hair flying, and they could be in heels, and they're not dressed appropriately. All the visuals of, oh, wow, they are really going at it over here. And that's the drama, because most of the time there's a love interest involved, or a double cross involved, or they're fighting over a man. And these kind of stories have been around since the beginning of time.
Let's talk about your first impression as her as a heel, when you actually get to see her do some mic work and wearing the gloves and the crown and the little dog. And did you recognize right away, that's gonna piss some people off?
Yeah. And here was my this is not so much coming out of WWF and Vince, but certainly that was on top of it. Look, here's probably the best example analogy in that, certainly in the territory days. I thought Deborah, from the very beginning, she didn't have a background or a concept or an understanding of the industry. And I say that with complete respect. She needed a Bruce Pritchard, a producer who would take her aside and not spend 5 minutes. That don't cut it. I'm not saying write a script for her and hand it off and say, hey, go do this word for word. That works in reverse, because then you have a inexperienced bad actor reciting lines, which is much worse than a inexperienced bad actor just riffing off the top of their head, at least saying what comes natural. But to my knowledge, I never saw Deborah really produced other than a couple of minutes. And she would come to me and I'm like, hey, I'm not the one to produce you. That's not my responsibility, because I knew right away you're dealing with Kevin Sullivan, you're dealing with Mongo. There's nothing that's good that's going to come of it. And I just say, hey, it's not my responsibility to do that. But when I saw her talk, a lot of times I would know where she wanted to go, but I thought her ultimate delivery needed a lot of work. And I say that out of complete respect for the whole process. She needed a Bruce Pritchard, and Bruce has a unique skill set because he can be wrestler A personality 1 minute and then literally jump across the scene and go into wrestler B personality and then jump across and go wrestler C and deliver the cadence and the timing and all that. Which great producers can do that. And, there's other folks with that kind of skill set. Lawler had a unique ability to that timing and everything to produce things. I never saw Deborah produce that way.
When you start working with her, did you feel like, hey, maybe I could share some things with her? Or did you think maybe that wasn't your place?
It definitely wasn't my place. And again, Mongo, it didn't take, again, I'm a huge football fan. There was a big bet that my grandfather, Eddie Marlin, made in the 85-86 year about them going undefeated that he made with Lawler. And he said after like week 3, they're going to go undefeated. And so it was, until my grandfather passed away, is one of the things, it's one of those stories that he always remembered. So a big NFL fan, big Chicago Bears when they were dominant and all that. So my first impression of Mongo was, oh, dude, here's this all-pro legendary lineman. But now he's in the wrestling business.
Right.
And that skill set doesn't transfer. Football players and being able to dance in a wrestling ring are completely two different skill sets. And a lot of times they don't mesh. And so, it's not like Mongo is going to go to the power plant. He was literally on the job training. So yeah. I thought that was tough, along with his wife there, along with the entire landscape of WCW, corporates, you name it. We've gone into ad nauseum about that environment, and you do it on 83 weeks, I'm sure quite a bit, but it was, I knew I wasn't getting in the middle of any of that.
It's also worth mentioning that Mongo liked to party. And in this era, well, he was a horseman. He was doing his fair share of partying. You've got two quote unquote civilians, as much as a superstar NFL player and a beauty queen can be considered civilians. And Mongo was notorious for traveling with like a pocket full of cash. I think Flair used to say he would just carry 10 grand on him at all times, sort of Gorilla Monsoon style. And as the legend goes, he started missing some things, maybe partying out a little too much, and eventually there's going to be some problems. Do you remember seeing issues with Mongo and Deborah in real life behind the curtain?
I never did. I never saw anything. It was, I don't want to say it was implied, but there was, there's something going on there, but I never saw anything. And that's not just, hey, hear no evil, speak no evil. No, I never saw anything. It was a very professional work atmosphere. I didn't see anything, but I definitely heard, okay, they're having issues.
Did you see her struggle to fit in with the other women? You know, there's on the other station, there's some pretty serious stuff going down with the Sables and the Sunnies and the Luna Vachons. They're not having the best experience together. What was it like here as far as you saw with Liz, Woman, and Deborah?
Very professional. And Liz, again, where she had been, the main event right up there with Randy and Hulk and that whole scene, and, Woman and, Nancy, I don't say grew up in this business, but a lot of ways in her, didn't she break in like in her teenage years?
Yeah, she grew up in it. You had it right.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's so with that, and again, Liz was Randy's wife before she was Miss Elizabeth. So there was a depth of experience with those two. And so Deborah, working as a flight attendant and Mongo's, wife, and then the pageant winner, there was a bit of, I'll call it sophistication that I didn't ever witness anything other than, yep, all's well.
Chat me up about, the travel situation here in WCW. You're going to be on the road, away from home, away from your wife at the time, Jill. And now you're on TV. And when some of y'all's casual friends or acquaintances or what have you, or just people in Hendersonville are going to check out what Jeff's doing, all of a sudden Jeff has a pretty lady tagging along with him. Does that even come up at home, or does she understand, honey, it's wrestling?
I think we've touched on this. I had my first date with her the week I had my first match, and the understanding of the industry in the business that, it's the whole wrestling fan. Well, that was fake, and that was fake. Oh, and that's now that's real. It's across the board. It's to use the terminology, it is sports entertainment, but it's a television show. It's we say all that, but it's still that anomaly form of entertainment that, oh, wow, he's here on Nitro and then he's here, there is difference, but no, she never had an issue. None. Zero.
Chat me up about your experience in working with Deborah through this whole, is Jeff or isn't he a horseman? You're going to be in a series of matches with Mongo, whether it's tags or y'all are standing across the ring from each other, but Deborah becomes a bigger and bigger part of that. Overall good experience. I'm just saying, when we put a button on your WCW run with her, tell me what you remember.
A 4 horseman run. The first, the main 4 horseman run. Yeah. And that's how we refer to it here on My World. Don't shake your head at me and chastise me. No. Here's the yin and the yang of it, that I believe, look, I think, was this you we were talking about, Conrad? No, who was I talking to this about? Anyway, had me and Rick had the program got to the point where I wrestled Rick and mentor, mentee, however you want to say it, Nature Boy, if we would have gotten to that, I think it could have been a career changing moment just in the whole grand scheme of things. It didn't happen. But I think we would view this whole story of Deborah and Mongo and, Benoit and the different pieces of the puzzles that we've sort of woven in here as, that's how we got to that payoff. And so the Mongo, Jeff, Deborah, U.S. title championship, all of that I thought was done pretty well considering all the circumstances. Here's it's having the skill set that I believe, and it's not just me, that others have. I think Miz has, there's other folks that can take care of themselves, take care of their opponent, and a valet or a manager at ringside. Lots of moving parts. So I guess either it's a good thing or a bad thing. But Deborah not being able, look, her skill set of verbal skills, I think are limited. But I don't think it's all her fault because she's never produced. We went over that. But her inability to take a bump, and I say that, I'm not talking about, a suplex off the top. I'm talking about cat fights and bumps and a la Sherry Martel with Harlem Heat, that type of stuff. Her inability and I'm not saying that she wasn't willing to do it, but she just wasn't trained. That greatly prohibited things from going to the next level, because who cares what happens? Ding, ding. You're going to have some, you got to do the build, but everything's built to a finish. And when you can't have her involved in physicality on the finish, the story is just much more difficult to tell. And that is something that, as good as a promoter may be, Vince is the very best. At the end of the day, he got a boatload of mileage out of Liz, but there was never any, huge payoff with her character. And that's okay. Some don't. But with Deborah, so you're saying put a button on this Horseman run. I thought it was a great avenue to weave through the story, but we never got to the story, because the real story is Jeff a horseman? And Flair, the Nate, says that he is, and then I turn on him, and we have our series of matches, and he beats me and moves on, and I'm never ever to be seen again as horseman material. But we just didn't get there. But it was above average, I would say. I mean, I'm happy with it, but it just, again, it's not her fault that we didn't get to have the huge payoff. But I thought we had some entertaining segments. And again, I'm going to go back to can you tell me one promo that you said, oh shoot, that was a hell of a promo by her?
Are you tired a lot? Frustrated that no matter what you do, you can't seem to keep your energy levels up during the day? The problem may be that you're not getting enough quality sleep. If you want to increase energy, performance, alertness, and productivity, stop reaching for the energy drinks and focus on quality REM sleep with Recovery PM. Poor quality sleep is directly linked to health problems like obesity, low testosterone levels, and high blood pressure. Not to mention that if you work out, your gains are being significantly reduced if you're not sleeping well. Most over-the-counter sleep aids are just melatonin. Recovery PM is a blend of 9 proven natural sleep aids and tranquilizers, including melatonin, 5-HTP, GABA, and tryptophan. Yes, that's the stuff in turkey that makes you tired. So you know you're going to experience deep sleep and wake up refreshed and ready to attack the day. If you're finding yourself hitting a midday slump and using energy drinks to perk up during the day, you're only making things worse in the long run. Upgrade to Recovery PM for 30 days and you'll be amazed how you feel. Recovery PM is available now at recoverypm.com, and if you use our code MYWORLD, you'll get 10% off your entire order. It's part of the Legacy Sports Nutrition line of products developed and used by a team of professionals, including our friends Nick Aldis and Mickey James. All Legacy products are made at an FDA-approved facility and ship worldwide. Try their full range of products now at LegacySups.com. But if you're ready to get that REM sleep, man, you got to go to Recovery PM at recoverypm.com and use promo code MYWORLD to save 10% off your entire order. No, she was usually involved in your segments, and I just switched it over to Raw. When I saw you, I was gone.
Thank you. So, folks, next week on My World, we're going to be.
Hey, so eventually you do leave because it's October and it's time. But the story would continue for Deborah and Steve McMichael. Somehow we involved Bill Goldberg into the mess, and then she moves on to Alex Wright, and then she's gone from WCW. And the rumor and innuendo is when the relationship ended, well, so did her employment with WCW. Eric said on 83 Weeks that she was just there to be there with her husband in the beginning, but as her role changed and grew, in Eric's opinion, her head got a little big. She maybe thought too much of her character. She was a little too high maintenance. Did you ever get that vibe in working with her at all in WCW?
And here's another thing that research brought to light. I had no idea about the Goldberg. I don't recall it. Obviously, I went over to WWF.
It's before Goldberg was Goldberg. I mean, this is, December of 97. So when you leave November and December of 97, Goldberg's involved there. So it's before Goldberg's Goldberg.
Oh, okay. When did Goldberg's streak start?
Well, he debuted in September of 97 and didn't lose.
Oh, right afterwards.
Yeah. So he's a new character, but no one cares. He's just a guy winning against Mongo. Nobody gives a fuck. He hadn't won the U.S. title yet. Nobody's cheering. There's no Goldberg chance. He's just a big football goof trying not to hurt Mongo.
Here's what I'll say. If you would have asked me prior to me reading research, hey, when you left WCW, what happened with Deborah? And I'm going to say they let her contract expire.
Yeah.
Time was up. And I would assume her, Mongo, Eric, and anybody else in that organization knew that when that contract's up, it's over with.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't know all the Alex Wright stuff, and shout out to Alex. He's a listener.
So when you find out she's officially no longer with WCW, do you bring it up? Does JR bring it up? Does Bruce bring it up? Does Russo bring it up? How does this become a conversation where Deborah McMichael is going to be with Jeff Jarrett and the WWF?
Here is, because I racked my brain on this. When did I actually, I had no idea, obviously, when her contract expired, but I can remember Vince calling me. I'm almost positive it was the day before Raw and said, hey, we're going to put Deborah with you tomorrow. What? Okay. When did all this happen? Oh, she's been calling quite a bit. Like calling the office? Oh yeah, Jeff, like a lot. I'm like, well, okay. And I'm like, okay, again, you know me, Conrad. What's the plan?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, so that's how we're going to do it. We're not doing any fanfare, any build up, nope. Okie day. I mean, that's how seamless it was. And when I read the notes, so she was calling Bruce as well.
She used to call every week to the HQ looking for work, trying to get into the biz. And she makes the debut on October 19th, 1998. So you had been back in the company for roughly a year. The big promo happened in October of 97 with Austin 316. You can check that out in the archives, including maybe one of our best podcast fights ever in the history of adfreeshows.com. But here on the show, this is the infamous episode in 1998 where Austin would kidnap and hold Vince McMahon hostage. So that's what most people remember it for. But Deborah's making her debut here. And remember, the last time we saw her, she was a beauty queen. She wore a sash and an evening gown and a crown. But now she's got a suit jacket and a little pencil skirt and this new look. Jeff, what'd you think of Deborah version 2?
And I guess you're saying Deborah version 2 is from a beauty queen to a business suit.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember having a real conscious thought like, oh, different look. It's like, okay, the Attitude Era, and we've gotten into some of it, but I know in future episodes, we'll really get into the NWO part, not NWO, the NWA version of Double J and the Tennessee Lee version of Double J. I came back promo. So going through all of that, and then, okay, the head shaving in August of, is that accurate, Conrad? I'm trying to think. 98. Yep. Am I right on this? I just want to make sure, because I had my haircut and now Deborah being put with me. I'm like, okay, where's this going to go?
Right.
I had no idea. But the business suit was, I guess you could say, appropriate. That what else would she wear? Because I just don't think the beauty queen.
Well, they ain't going to cut it in the Attitude Era,
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. At all. And I thought it was appropriate.
I mean, there's no other way to say it. We're trying to leverage sex appeal here in the Attitude Era. So we're going to have to show off some legs. We're going to have to show off some other things. And I think Jerry Lawler's probably going to start hooting and hollering and help us with some of that. But were you concerned as far as the presentation goes? Because you had, basically every sort of second there was at one point and another in Memphis, I'm sure. Were you worried that having the big blonde hair, the other feminine attributes highlighted, were you concerned, hey, is this going to add to or take away from my presentation?
So, okay, I didn't know where you were going with that. And by the way, I really didn't have that because as a babyface all in Tennessee, but we had others on the other side, that managers, dirty white girl, there was all kind of female managers that would ultimately get in cat fights because Miss Texas had to have an opponent. And that was sort of the whole thread. But no, so Don't Piss Me Off had just sort of started, and her being in a business suit, and I'll call it, I don't want to call it a business manager, but that's kind of the relationship that me and Russo, not Vince McMahon, Russo. And I think I need to start referring to them as Russo and McMahon as opposed to Vince. So listeners, and also keep my brain straight. But that was kind of the conversation that me and Russo had in the very early that, yeah, there was no discussion of love interest or any of that. It was, Jeff, your don't piss me off mentality. She's accompanying you that, and look, y'all are out there to win matches. And that's sort of the mindset. Cause I knew I had the conversation with Russo, her interview skill sets, we're going to have to produce that. And what she says, how are we going to evolve into that? And he's just like, let's take it a week at a time. And I'm like, completely agree.
So it's the height of the Attitude Era. I mean, this debut episode where she's debuting is the episode where Steve Austin would hold a gun to Vince McMahon's head and pull the trigger. Of course, a little flag comes out that says bang 316. Vince pisses himself, but that's where we are. And a lot of that credit for the success of the Attitude Era gets lumped onto Russo. Was Russo a big Deborah fan? Do you think he would have been a big proponent of, there's only so much we can do with that Southern accent, bro. We got to get the puppies. And if he won't let us see the puppies, we'll hate him, Vince. You got to take my word for it, bro. Is that pretty much the gist, you think?
Well, and here was something that before the episode started, is that when you sort of look through, and it's not just the Attitude Era, you can look at the Hulkamania era. And very much, and I guess what I'm saying is the yin and the yang of character development versus matches. And when they get out of whack, literally, I think if you have a scale, I think character development has got to weigh a little bit more, sometimes a lot more, to get you to the dance. But in this era, it wasn't so much about, yes, Austin and McMahon had matches and all this, but the thread and the storyline was the boss McMahon versus the hardworking employer battle, Austin McMahon. And so everything was about character development. And so Russo was a huge Deborah fan because, the sex appeal, which is the low hanging fruit, but okay, how's the yin and the yang? The what you referred to earlier, and I'm going to tell you that me and Road Dogg and how all that organically was like, oh no, don't let them see them. That all came out of spontaneous listening to the people. That wasn't so much. Now, Vince saw it, obviously loved it and went with it, and then wrote good stuff to follow up on it. There's no doubt. But in the beginning, right there was sex appeal. And Jeff, you're, however you want to say it, the don't piss me off, go out there, but we're going to use these assets, but it's a part of the package. That's how Vince looked at it. Here's the package we're going to go with.
We should mention, it's a weird era, not just for wrestling, but for you personally. You mentioned you're fresh off a haircut. You've now got the don't piss me off thing. You're starting to wear some silly glasses. It's an overall of a look. And now you've got, a second with you. And so does Al Snow. He's still carrying around that head, and you guys have a match, and somehow the head was distracted by Deborah, and that allowed you to smash your guitar over Al Snow's head to get the win that night. And when Deborah debuts, it's speculated in the Observer that they're probably doing this as a way to build an opponent for Sable in a program together. Of course, Sable had really caught fire by 1998, and she was one of the more featured attractions, guaranteed ratings. And with Deborah, it feels like, okay, well, maybe she could be a potential heel candidate. Did you think in your mind that, hey, we're probably going to be doing some mixed tags? And did you start sort of like you did with Dirty White Girl a minute ago? Did you just assume, well, that's where this winds up? There's going to be something here physically, right?
With for sure, Conrad, without question, you definitely are learning, understanding my brain. It's like coming in the door and me being relieved. Oh, I'm not an NWO member, because it's really crowded over in that house. I get to be with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Sign me up. When you, during this, we'll call it, and a lot of times, a lot of ways, I don't know if you agree. Wasn't this like, to me, this was peak Attitude Era, like really peak. Austin McMahon were red hot. Rock coming into his own, Mankind, just DX, all that kind of stuff is okay. I'll be over here in the, we'll call it, you have your main event stuff. You maybe have some, I don't call it blood and guts, but the brawling stuff. But over here in this Sable, Deborah, sex appeal storyline, I'll be the anti-guy on that with the attitude and all that. Yes, sign me up for that. I saw a great opportunity to be involved in some successful stuff. Yes.
Your first match together on pay-per-view is at Survivor Series. You're going to lose to Al Snow in the first round. Thank God. You and Goldust begin a program, and at Rock Bottom in the pay-per-view in Vancouver, we've got a match. It's Goldust versus you, and the loser of the match will have to strip. And in this case, thankfully, it won't be you stripping, but Deborah will have to. And this even includes where Deborah comes out during the match between Goldust and Owen. She's got on a long coat and she flashes them both. Of course, she's wearing her bra and panties, but it doesn't distract Goldust. But it does distract Owen, and that gets Dustin the win. I got to ask, we're taping today because we had to make sure that you had a chance to go to church this morning. And that's been a big part of your life for a long, long time. And now all of a sudden, as a married man, you've got a buxom, scantily clad lady who's maybe flashing people as part of your act. Is this something you have to at least discuss at home, or maybe on a Sunday morning in a small group of folks, or what have you?
That's a whole nother discussion, but it's a church that I'm not affiliated